that you heard. Don't get into what ifs, and because of this, we're not going to go there, all right? So keep that in mind, and we'll be good. So here we go. All right, 1:30 this afternoon. Call came out, shots fired. That was called in by the Secret Service. Because we're in constant contact with them all the time, we were notified of that, and we had units here that immediately sealed off the area. Fortunately, we were able to locate a witness that came to us and said, hey, I saw the guy running out of the bushes. He jumped into a black Nissan, and I took a picture of the vehicle and the tag, which was great. So we had that information. Our real-time crime center put it out to the license plate readers. And we were able to get a hit on that vehicle on I-95 as it was headed into Martin County. We got a hold of Martin County Sheriff's Office, alerted them, and they spotted the vehicle and pulled it over and detained the guy. After that, we took the victim, the witness that witnessed the incident, threw him up there, and he identified as the person that he saw running out of the bushes and jumped into the car. Now, in the bushes where this guy was is a AK-47 style rifle with a scope, 2 backpacks which were hung on the fence that had a ceramic tile in them, and a GoPro, which he was going to take pictures of. So those are being processed right now. The Secret Service agent that was on the course did a fantastic job. What they do is they have an agent that jumps one hole ahead of time to where the president was at. And he was able to spot this rifle barrel sticking out of the fence and immediately engage that individual, at which time the individual took off. So that's what we know about the investigation. We have somebody in custody right now that is a potential suspect. We got a little bit more work to do on it, but as we usually do, as soon as we decide that we're going to book him into the county jail and the charges that he's going to be booked into, we'll get those to you and we'll get a picture of him and we'll get you his background. So now I'm going to turn it over to the representative of the Secret Service, and he's going to make a brief statement.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I first want to thank all of our law enforcement partners, to include the Palm Beach Sheriff's Office and the Martin County Sheriff's Office, for their involvement today. Former President Donald Trump is safe and unharmed following a protective incident shortly before 2 p.m. on Sunday at Trump International Golf Club at West Palm Beach. The U.S. Secret Service personnel opened fire on a gunman located near the property line, and this matter is under investigation. I'll turn it over to my partners over at the FBI.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jeffrey Veltri. I'm the special agent in charge of the FBI's Miami field office. The FBI
What was that, you brothers?
Sources,
Okay, here we go.
including investigative teams, crisis response team members, bomb technicians, and evidence response team members as well. What we need right now is for the public to avoid the area around the golf course. We will continue to support this investigation with the full resources of the FBI, alongside our partners with the United States Secret Service and the Palm Beach Sheriff's Office, as well as Martin County Sheriff's Office and state and local law enforcement. I would ask that if anyone has any information that may assist with this investigation, to contact our tip line at 1-800-CALL-FBI or at tips, that's tips.fbi.gov. Thank you.
David?
I got some information, FBI.
I am Dave Ehrenberg, State Attorney for Palm Beach County. I want to thank Sheriff Bradshaw and our partners at the local, state, and federal levels. I'm here because our
Unmute your mic, brother.
There we go. My bad. My bad. So we just kind of jumped right into it. People in the comments like, what the fuck is going on? Tell us What are we looking at, bro?
So, the Teflon Don, the Teflon Don had another attempt on his life. This makes number 2. I don't know a president or a ex-president who has survived this many attacks. They said he was at his golf club, and when old boy shot at him, Donnie did like this. He did the Neo thing. I don't know any sitting president who has survived this many attempts. Now, here's the thing, family. Here's what I want to point out to you. This is very, very important. So I need you to follow me. Time magazine. This is on
Oh
9/11.
my God.
This is on 9/11. Can somebody in the comments please type in 9/11? Today's the 15th.
Are you serious?
Today's the 15th. Today is the 15th. On 9/11, just 4 days ago, Time magazine. Now remember, the Teflon Don had an assassination attempt on his life while he was at his golf club. He was on the golf course where they tried to knock him off course. They tried to unalive him. They tried to JFK him. They tried to Abraham Lincoln him.
Damn.
Time magazine, 4 days ago on 9/11, they posted how Kamala Harris knocked Donald Trump off course. Now remember, after that first attempt, and he survived it, Joe Biden said, forget it, I'm out. Joe Biden's last hoorah, Joe Biden's
true.
last hoorah was trying to knock him off. And after Donald Trump did the Neo Matrix and he did the thing and they grazed him, Donnie said, well, if you can't kill him, join him. So Donnie, Joe Biden dropped out. Now, Scamala, I'm not saying Scamala did it. Scamala came out, and let me just make this clear to everybody. She said she's glad he survived and everybody is safe and unharmed. That's the official statement she put out. So we're not saying that she wished ill will on any human, man, woman, or child. However, Time magazine on 9/11 posted this.
That's
so
crazy.
You can't make this stuff up. Now, Minister, I want to bring up another point. Let me take this off the screen. I want to bring up another point. Let me ask the listening audience. Listening audience, press what have we done any numbers thus far?
Nah, just 9/11.
Press 000 if you're familiar with tarot. Press 000 if you're familiar with tarot. If you know what tarot is, the tarot cards.
Yeah.
If you know what tarot is, press 000. I want to see something real quick. I want to see if we're all on the same page real quick. Was that outside?
That was a sound thing.
That was here.
You said
Okay.
terror. I'm like, oh.
So now,
Hold on, bro.
in tarot, well, here, let me back up. When they tried to unalive Donald Trump, he was on the 5th hole. Remember, he's at the golf club. He's on the golf course. He's on golf course number 5. He's on hole number 5. Well, why is this important? Let me share a screen. Is that okay, Minister?
Yeah, please.
Okay. So he was on golf course number 5. Well, in tarot, the number 5 can be associated with change, because Donald Trump's about to change everything. Hear me now, believe me later. Donald Trump's about to change everything. 5 is associated with change and with conflict. Some tarot cards with the number 5 can indicate trouble. They made it a point. They made it a point to let us know that he was on the 5th hole. This is not tinfoilhat.com or the tarot black girl on YouTube and Instagram. These are the leading media sources who are telling you these things.
Damn, man. This is crazy.
This is uncanny.
This
Now,
is crazy.
I want to also say this.
Mhm.
The cops, when they gave their testament about the young boy, family, don't type in the official words, but you tell me what race was the shooter.
Oh, it's a YC.
Let me show you something, Minister.
Please.
Let me just show you something real quick, Minister. Just bear with me in the name of European Jesus. In the name of European Jesus, just give me just a moment.
Take your time, bro.
Okay, amen, church. Amen. So, banner overlay. If anybody wants to know, if anybody wants to guess what the shooter looked like, because he was on hole number 5, press 555 if you already know. He was on hole number 5. Press 555 if you already know. Minister, do you know what this lady's name is?
No, I should. She played on the white lady version of Girlfriends. What's the name of it? Golden Girls.
He did not say, oh my God.
That's all Girlfriends was. It was this knockoff version of this.
If you want to know, if you want to get, what did the guy look like who tried to unalive Donald Trump? Betty White. I bet he white. I bet he white.
Betty White.
I bet he white.
Betty ain't black. Betty white. Betty ain't white. I mean, Betty ain't black. Betty white. I bet he white.
I bet he white. Come on. So, with that said,
hilarious.
When the cops were being interviewed on what's going on, the cops said that the alleged gunman appeared emotionless. That's what the cops said.
That's dealing with the program.
All day long. Family, what program is the minister talking about? What is the name of the program? This gunman allegedly appeared emotionless. Why did the gunman? I'm talking to the listening audience. Why did the gunman appear emotionless? What program they talking about? That's right.
MK Ultra. Now, for those of y'all who don't quite know what MK Ultra is, I know sometimes we hear about stuff and don't really understand what it is. This is the actual documents. Documents were released a little while ago under Freedom of Information Act, FOIA Act, they call it. Pretty much, Project MK Ultra was a human experimentation program designed and undertaken by the U.S. CIA. So if the CIA was doing it, pretty much bet that the MI6, they were doing it too. To develop the procedures in identifying drugs that could be used during interrogation to weaken the individual and force confessions through brainwashing and psychological torture. Now, from my understanding, those were the intentions, but upon doing that, they found out something else. How to control people. What do you think, bro?
No, I think you're all wise, right, and exact. May I share this with you real quick?
Please.
He won't nervous. He won't sweating. He wasn't scared. He wasn't happy. He wasn't remorseful. They said he was calm. This is their words, not mine. I know we were joking on the Betty White thing, blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, if you just tried to unalive, you would have to have some type of emotion.
Well, I, for one, believe that if that's the case, that you're saying that because he was in an emotionless state, he was, calm and all this kind of stuff, he was able to try to unalive somebody, and he didn't have any signs of remorse or I guess fear, sweating. That's much like this. They're the same way. They don't show no remorse. They don't be scared. It's very easy. The point I'm making is, if it's a MK Ultra narrative, this shit is everywhere. Because I don't know how anybody can remain calm, not sweating. He's either a trained assassin or on some kind of program.
Okay, in my opinion, when I come across people who don't like Donald Trump, they're very aggressive. We can't have it. I'm tired of this guy. Get him out of here. No more. We can't do 4 more years. It's just a lot of energy. I mean, Minister, have you come across people who didn't support Donald Trump and they were very vehement? They were very
they get
agitated. I can't. He's a racist and this and this and that, and they just be so mad.
Yep. And for the life of me, just like a little bit earlier on here, I can't understand why would somebody be so angry towards an individual that 6 years ago you didn't know anything about. Yeah, aggression. Thank you, be nice. Aggression. Passive aggressive too. So what do you make of all this, man? Because they said that the Simpsons had predicted this shit. And the Simpsons don't miss.
This is my prediction.
The Simpsons
don't miss. Speaking of the Simpsons don't miss, you know who always seems to miss? What am I gonna say always?
Who's that?
Secret Service couldn't get a shot off on this boy. How come the Secret Service missed? I thought you were supposed to be certified gunman. What is it called? 1CK.
Yeah, shit.
This was supposed to be one confirmed KI double hockey stick. 1CK. If you ever see them old veterans with 1CK on the license plate, just understand they don't miss. These Secret Service people are supposed to be protecting the president. Again, the minister and I already showed you that school shooter. They knew about him.
Yep.
A year before he did it.
Facts.
But they missed. With this dude, they missed because they attempted to off him. They missed. They saw him coming a mile away and they couldn't get him off. Now, what do I make of this? From what I'm seeing, this is just a prediction, family. Donald Trump will be president. That is a true statement. However, he will not finish that term. He will become president. That is a true statement. But unlike the Secret Service who miss, the Simpsons do not miss. He will not finish those 4 years.
Damn.
If anybody under the sound of my voice suspects that may be true, can you type in 222?
Damn. Put my top back like JFK.
Not JFK.
So, boy, I want to say this to the family. If you have not already, please go ahead and start storing up on water, ammunition. Get your bug out kit together. If you have weapons in your house, make sure they're in good working condition, good working order. If you have a garage of any kind of sort, storage unit, go ahead and start purchasing water. They got it on sale at Sam Club. Sometime this week, go get you a couple of cases of water. One thing, you cannot survive without water. Don't start grabbing food. Food gonna spoil. Start grabbing water. Ammunition. Make sure you and your family have a meetup spot somewhere, because if they do end up unaliving this dude, boy, America about to go ape shit.
Now,
If he loses,
if he
gonna go
loses, let's talk about that, please.
they're gonna go crazy. I'm telling y'all what's gonna happen. I'm telling y'all what's about to happen in America. It's about to be crazy. Ape shit.
It ain't gonna be good.
And America is known for knocking off people that they don't rock with politically. And ain't nothing done about it. John with the boots was with the formerly known Democratic Party back then. He's with the whole other party, political party. And we all do know what happened to Kennedy, right? Kennedy was knocked off by his driver. By his driver? I thought it was a... You thought it was a what? The magic bullet? No. Of course not. His driver turned around and shot him. That's why his wife's trying to get out the car.
Teach.
Because the shot came from the front seat. She's trying to get out the back of the car, away from the gunshot. This is now new research. There wasn't a magic bullet. Everybody talking about it now. Shot from the front seat. And I'm not sure they're going to show it in here, but his head went backwards. Same thing with Dr. King. You know, what's his name? The good brother who just passed away not too long ago. Dick Gregory did a live with Dick Gregory. The guy had exposed the fact how King had got assassinated. So all I'm saying is they're not strangers to this in America. They will knock you off. They will knock you off. I think your mic is muted.
Yeah, no, I'm listening. Please continue.
Oh, yeah. But I definitely say that it was a shock, man. It's a shocker. It was a shocker. It's definitely a shocker. So we wanted to jump on live real quick and try to go ahead and report this over to y'all before we get started or anything, man. So my bad about the comments. Let me get back over to the comments. Get back to protocol. My bad. Back to protocol. You guys were in early. We got a new member. A new member in the building. Matrix 3000, welcome. Peace and light. Peace and light. Who is this? Wildberry. Peace and love. D Nice always tapping in, of course. D Nice always in the building. For life in love. Peace and light. Nick Miner, what's good? Empress. True King. What's going on? For the world social media. Peace. B, what's going on? Who else? Ben, what's happening? Chief, we see you out there. What's going on? Oh yeah, we're back at it. This is breaking news though, Chief. So we wanted to jump on real quick with the breaking news, but you know, my live is about to queue up in a second, talking about the documentation of the natives, or whatever the case is. But we want to hop on here real quick and bring y'all this breaking news. They tried to unalive Trump again. This is the second attempt. So on that on that first attempt, they was calling Trump 50 Cent, many men.
Teach.
Now Trump has earned the title of Tupac. You know, when Tupac went to New York and got shot the many times he came back, he still wasn't dead. So he done went from 50 Cent to Tupac status now. Trump is officially a thug. Officially. He is the Caucasian Tupac at this point. They ain't stopping, bro, man. Conscious. Peace and love, chat. What's going on? Think about this. What he just said right here. You see this? Trump is no, not really. Trump is really Trump is really white. Jesus, quit playing with bro. Hey man, can't do nothing with him. They can't do nothing with Trump, man. They can't do nothing with him. They tried to knock my boy off twice.
Teflon Don.
Teflon Don. That's who he is. Big Trump, man. What going on, man? Y'all talking about that big Trump, man. Watch out, my boy. Boy. I can mess with him. I'm convinced that Trump is like the lost member of YSL.
I'm done.
Let's see if we can get what's his name? The guy talking all the crap all the time.
Woody.
No, not Woody. The other guy be on everybody podcast.
Charleston White.
Charleston White. Let's see if we get Charleston White over here to confirm if Trump is one of the YSL people or not. Rachel, appreciate that. Thank you so much. Listen, what else say ye about the assassination of Trump, brother? Because I'm pretty sure there's gonna be a lot more come out in the next few hours. If you're not already watching over on the news somewhere, please check it out. Any other words about this situation, bro?
No, brother. I just want to let everybody know the truth is stranger than fiction. And I think the minister said it best. Family, prepare, please prepare. Whatever go down, we just want to make sure that we're ready and that we are prepared to deal with it. If that means you have to defend your family, then so be it. If it means that you're going to have to get the heck out of Dodge, then so be it.
But you know what? A lot of people don't really believe this shit gonna happen. They really aren't preparing for anything other than to go out this weekend. I'm telling y'all, man. If you go to Walmart got the MREs at Walmart. If you know what the MREs, it's meals ready to eat. They got them in buckets at Walmart. Please, family, go get at least a bucket because they're gonna be no running to no grocery stores and none of that stuff, man. I just showed you the bug out kits. If you live in the inner city, like in the city, downtown, midtown area, anywhere in your state, make sure you got an exit plan to get up out the city in time before the highways pack out. Make sure you got a meetup spot or something with friends or family somewhere. This is important.
I do want to say that I'm about to go on Killer Priest podcast. It's 8 o'clock. I wanted to thank Mr. Vinagati. We want to welcome you as a new member. And if you are already a member, please welcome him in. Thank you so much for tapping in. We're humble, we're honored, we're grateful. Also, family, the Pen and Pad gang, the Pen and Paper gang, remember the minister has merch. In addition to that, please, if you make beats, tap all the way in, send them over to the minister. Send those beats over to the minister. And like right now, as we're talking, we'll be playing your music. And we'll give you a shout out. You always know, we always acknowledge the family, put some respect on your name. So with that said, family, tap all the way in. You know how much all is. But with that said, minister, I want to thank you so much for having me. Let's do it again.
Appreciate you, man. Thanks for coming on, man. So listen, definitely go check out the whole thing with Trump, man. Definitely get prepared for what's about to take place, what's about to happen. It is 8 o'clock. We're going to spend about 30 minutes getting into the lecture at hand. If you guys are just now tapping in, we were talking about the whole Trump thing earlier. I was scheduled to go live at 7:45 tonight, which I still am. Here's tonight's notes. Flavor in the colonies. We're dealing with the paperwork, though. We're dealing with the logistical side of everything, talking about how they took the land. I'm gonna go over a couple of quick points, and then I'm gonna take my leave. Not gonna be long. We're gonna talk about, of course, this is the outline. If anybody want to copy this outline, let me put my email up here, please. Hold on. I'm gonna email my Cash App information up here. Oh, it's already on the bottom. Right there. So right there at the bottom is my Cash App. Send something to the Cash App. In the comment section, though, I mean, in the subject section, just put outline, tonight's outline. This is the email, send it to, shoot me a Cash App. And this is the outline we're going to cover tonight. We may not get a chance to get through all of it, but this is the main nuggets. And y'all know how we always do. We'll go down the timeline and we just follow the breadcrumbs to everything. But this is the actual outline. If you need me to send it over to you, send me a message via Cash App. I'll email it right to you. It doesn't matter about the amount, $2, $3, $5, whatever the case is. But we're definitely going to go over this PowerPoint tonight. All right. So hold tight. I'm going to cue everything back up because we just kind of came on and start going at it. So let me cue everything up and take it from the top. Hold your seats.
Who taught you to hate the texture of your hair? Who taught you to hate the color of your skin to such extent that you bleach to get like the white man?
This is the emergency broadcast system. This is not a test.
Edit. So get your pen and your paper. Let's take some notes. That's crazy about the whole Trump thing, man. That is insane. That is insane, bro. So of course you already know we're about to get on, man. But there's some quick history dealing with the colonial era of things. If you tapped in last time, we dealt with the psyops of Hollywood, Negro mindset. We dealt with a couple of other different topics that's been pretty dope, pretty cool. But tonight we're going to talk about how did they get the land? How did they get the land? How did they take it? How did they get it? Who gave it to them? What happened? Southern Stocks and Bond. It says part 2, but this is part 1. Part 2 gonna be next week. Southern Stocks and Bonds. Let's dig into it. As y'all already know, we've talked extensively about the doctrine of discovery. Extensively. But what I think I haven't did is I haven't read over it. I haven't read it out loud. And I think that's important to listen to the mindset of Europe and what they were thinking before they came over here. Or as they came over here. So of course, get your pen and your paper. Let's take some notes. Pen and paper gang. All my disciples. This is what we do. We're here to study. Everybody else, you're more than welcome to hang out, hang around, and take notes. But this is kind of my commitment to you all to break down some of this information. It's a lot of knowledge. So this is my effort on Sundays. And next Sunday, we'll continue on the situation all through the month of October, every Sunday, Lord willing, if y'all hop on with me. But I like to kind of walk through the history real slow. So if you know anybody that wants to tap in, share the link. Won't be on here long. Pen and paper gang, appreciate y'all so much, man. Speaking of pen and paper gang, I'm just so freaking excited about this situation, man. I got the apparel, got the hoodies and joint right in time for the wintertime. Tap in with this right here. I got my own website popping off. MOI situation, the sweaters, the hoodies, the hats. It's a whole site. It's a whole site. I didn't pull the site up right now. I'll pull the site up before we get out of here, but definitely check it out. Some apparel. Got $5 off already off the rip. Not trying to tax nobody or anything. But if you like the apparel, definitely tap in. Creator, MOI, so on and so forth. I'll do an email blast. I'll do an email blast to send out the actual link so you guys can check it out. Let's get into it. 1493 Indica Terra Convener, or what they call the Indica Terra, issued by Pope Alexander VI. What's so significant about this piece of work is that it was the manifesto that Europe played out in order to conquer the lands of North, Central, and South America. And as we go through this tonight, I'm going to show you guys many other documents to hopefully these documents will help clear up the age-old question. Well, how did they just take the land? If we were already over here, how did they get it? And it's going to explain the first set of so-called Africans who came to the shores of North America in 1551. It's going to show how many came out of Africa. Not this particular document, but this is the beginning of it. This is post-Arab slave trade and Africans diaspora. This is more dealing with the Americas, the beginning of how they came over to the Americas and took over. This is the beginning of that. The Papal Bull Indica Terra, issued by Pope Alexander VI on May 4th, 1493, played a central role in the Spanish conquest of the New World. The document supported Spain's strategy and ensures exclusive rights to the land discovered by Columbus. The previous year, it established a demarcation line 100 leagues west of Urzu in the Cape Verde Islands, and assigned Spain the exclusive rights to acquire territorial possession and to trade in all lands west of that line. All others were forbidden to approach the lands west of the line without license from the rulers of Spain. Without license, nobody could go over there. Britain, France, nobody could go over here to the Americas. This effectively gave Spain a monopoly on lands in the New World. The bull stated that any land not inhabited by Christians, it's not saying that the land is not inhabited by people. The land has inhabitants. The land has indigenous inhabitants who are already there already. This is already stated. But the fact that there were not Christians, this is the empire of Christendom. This is what I've been talking about before with the empire of Christendom, with what's his name? Hold on, pull him up for you. I like to show y'all when I'm talking to y'all. That way nobody's confused about nothing. This is Christendom. This is the conquesting of Christendom. This is the beginning of this. Not the beginning of this, but this is the recourse of this been established early on in the council meetings. In hoc sic vince, in this sign we shall conquer. And they came to these shores in that sign. They came over here in that sign. They came to these shores in the sign of Christendom. This is Spain. This is when Spain first got here in 1593. This is before 1616 Virginia. There were multiple Spanish colonies in Carolinas in 1500s. In the Carolinas, we're not talking about Central America or South America. Spain actually came here to North America, and as I know, the many people on this live right now, the majority of us are from North America or North American territory. So this was the beginning of that slave diaspora that they teach you about in school. And we're not starting with the colonies. We're not starting with pilgrims. We're starting with Spain. because the Indicatera Cavina of what's called the Papal Bull gave them permission, license permission to come take the lands over here from anybody that was here. The people here were not Christians. This is what gave them the right to do it. So let's take a look at this first territory. San Miguel de Guadalupe, founded in 1526, Lucas Vasquez. This was the first European settlement in the continent of the United States. The exact location of the settlement is still debated, but it was likely off the coast of present-day Georgia and Carolina. The colonies were short-lived, lasting 2 months due to disease, hunger, and slave uprising. This was the first slave revolt. Not Nat Turner. This was the first slave revolt. 1526. Carolina coast and Georgia coast. Let's read who they brought here. Wine Bay, around August 9th, 1526, they quickly found the area unsuitable. Settlement and relocated to the south. Sapio Sounds. This is like the Gullah Sea Islands. Jackal Island is a little bit south of this area right here in Georgia. Well, the colony lasted 2 months before overwhelming disease, hunger, and a slave uprising and hostile Native Americans. Of the 600 settlers who set out, only 150 would leave. The enslaved Africans brought to the settlers became the first documented slaves. The enslaved Africans that they brought over here were the first documented African cargo. So now we can go check the numbers in a second of how many were brought here. And then we can look at every time they came here to North America and how many they brought here. And we're going to do the math. And it's 400 years of slavery. We're going to do the math on that. The country is not that old. So that's what we're going to spend the next couple of minutes on, family, is just building and dissecting the information. Now, if this is not exciting for some of us, I definitely get it. But for the disciples and master students who are here to take notes and learn, this is what we do on Sundays going forward, okay? This is what I spend my time doing on Sundays is less debating, no arguing, just teaching and showing information. And those of you who want to learn the information for sure, tap in and share it. The enslaved Africans brought by the settlers became the first documented black slaves, and what would become known as the continent of the United States, carried the first slave rebellion. Let's find out who this is. Lucas was a wealthy sugar planter in Hispaniola. Hispaniola was Puerto Rico, all the sea islands that we call the British Islands. That was considered Hispaniola, the whole area, Hispaniola. And the magistrate of the colony, Royal Appeal Courts, real audience, Odysseus. In 1521, he dispatched Francisco Gordillo and expanded to the Bahamas to kidnap people as slaves. Now, watch this right here. Kidnap people as slaves. 1521, he went to the Bahamas to kidnap people as slaves. Pretty. Finding the island completely depopulated, Gordillo and other slaving ships plotted. So these ships are already over here. They're not coming from Africa. These ships are already over here. These slave ships we're talking about right here are already over here. It goes on to say, Pedro sailed northwest in search of lands and previous slaving expeditions he found in that direction. On June 24, 1521, they made a landfall to Wine Bay. Let's find out, Wine Bay, if I'm saying that right. I'm probably slaughtering it. Wine Bay. It said Wakaquam River, PD River, Black River, and Simpson River in Georgetown County, eastern South Carolina. So that's the location. Everybody with me so far? So we got the location, we got the when, and we have the who. Pedro, June 4, 1521, South Carolina. After some preliminary exploration of the region, they kidnapped 70 Indians and brought them back to Hispaniola. Wait a minute. I thought we was capturing enslaved Africans. No, they captured Indians, or who they call Indians, from South Carolina. How many of y'all are familiar with the tribal people in South Carolina? Who knew the name of those? Peace. How you doing, brother? Peace. Damn right, class is in session. Who knew the name of the people, the local indigenous population to Carolina? What do we call them? What do we call the individuals in the lower region of South Carolina? Anybody can shout it out in the comments. 1521, after preliminary exploration of the region, they kidnapped 70 Indians and brought them back to Hispaniola. The authorities of Hispaniola criticized this capture, but did not send them back because of the expense. No penalties were imposed on the captors. The captors scavenged dead animals in the town. Most died, and the others were divided amongst the inhabitants. Geechee. We say this is what they speak, Geechee. But the inhabitants of South Carolina, we can just look it up. Don't sweat it. We're just gonna look it up. And yes, I'm on WikiLeaks. Anybody got a problem with that? I don't care. Eat me. Hold on. Okay, never mind. Let me pull up my other search box. Give me a second. Pull up my other search box. Search engine. And all we doing is just researching, family. And we just digging. It's your first time listening to me. Understand I'm not here to convince or persuade you at all. It's just information. There you go. I got him right here. There we go. Share screen. Give me a second. There we go. Let's read about the goal. The goal get you people. They created a culture deep within African retention, visible in their food, music, and more. Gullah Geechee are descendants of Africans who were enslaved in the lower Atlantic coast. The Geechee Gullah are descendants of enslaved Africans who were brought to lower Atlantic coast of North Carolina, South Carolina, Florida, and Georgia to work on the plantations. Their isolation on the plantation led to unique cultural blends of African tradition, English and its characteristics of their arts, craft, food, music, language, and religion. The Gullah Geechee speak a Creole language that combines of African and European words and grammar. It is the only African Creole language in the United States that has influenced Southern speech pattern. Their customs include quilting, basket weaving, wood carving, and reciting folk tales. The term Geechee refers to the islanders of Georgia, who were historically considered negative. However, it was considered negative. However, it's now accepted in the way that connect the culture of West Africa. The Geechee Gullah have retained ethnic traditions from West Africa since the 1700s. Many Gullah Geechees still live in the Low Country and Sea Islands, but development has forced them off the Hilton Head, James Island, South Carolina community and still. Now, this is the connection. Geechee Gullah or Goal. We just read about South Carolina, North Carolina. They're descendants of Africans, enslaved Africans who were brought there. Watch this. This was part of the Spanish colony. Spanish Empire. These first set of Africans brought to North America was under a Spanish colony. In 1563, King Philip II of Spain defined the procedures and powers of colonial audacity or courts and moved into the capital of the Kingdom of Guatemala from Tabasco, Yucatan, and Panama back to Santiago, becoming a commercial, ecclesiastical, and bureaucratic metropolis. And for a time, it was the largest city in the hemisphere. 1563 also established the government of Spanish Florida and government of Spanish Louisiana. In 1566, Pedro Mendez de Avalos founded Santa Elena, and on what now is Paris Island, South Carolina, to prevent the French from expanding into the area of Spain claimed by La Florida. Santa Elena was the capital of Spanish Florida in 16th century, 1500s, and was protected by several Spanish forts, including Fort San Salvador, Fort San Felipe, and Fort San Morocco. It's a Spanish territory. In the 1500s, everything up and down the east coast of North America was Spanish territory, all the way down to Florida. Just so we're clear. Let's see who was contracted to come over here in the 1500s. I was telling somebody earlier about John Hawkins. This is John Hawkins. 1532 to 1595 was one of the most notable sailors and naval commanders of the 16th century. He was known for his pivotal role in maritime history of the English and the rise of global slave trade. Hawkins was born in a wealthy maritime family in Plymouth. His father, William Hawkins, had visited the New World in 1527 and traded with the Guinea and Brazil. And he was also a prominent figure in the courts of Henry VIII. By his mid-20s, Hawkins had already making voyages to many major ports, such as the Canary Islands. While mainly trading in textile and sugar, there were an account of involving Hawkins' piracy. The Sea Dogs, pirates or privateers. In this case, Sir John Hawkins and Sir Francis Drake, Sir Martin Farbosh, and Sir Walter Raleigh. You need to know these people. If you live on the East Coast of North America in the islands, you need to know these people. I like this. This is interactive class. So are you saying Hawkins and all the Spanish business were men, Caucasian? They were from Spain. The term Caucasian don't really apply to those people. Caucasians apply to northern cave dwellers of the Caucasus Mountains. But I get what you're saying. But these were definitely Spaniards. They can be mistaken as YT. While several other Englishmen had already taken slaves from Africa by the 1500s, John Hawkins effectively set the pattern that would become known as the English slave trade triangle. Early in his career, he led an expedition which violently captured 300 Africans. Write down 300. Let's take some notes. Write down 300. It did say why several other Englishmen had already taken slaves from Africa. It didn't say how many. It didn't say where. But we have a where, and we have how many. Early in his career, he led an expedition in which it violently captured 300 Africans in Sierra Leone and transported them to Spanish plantations in the Americas. So we know right now there's plantations. Maybe we don't know because I'm not going into type of order. Maybe you guys don't know. As we do know, there are colonies in North America in the 1500s. The English colonies of Carolina. So Spain was already bringing Africans over here to South Carolina in the 1500s. And I keep harping on this because this is pre Jamestown, Virginia. I think the only history we receive is the English version of history of them bringing Africans to the English colonies. This is pre English colonies. This is the 1500s. And while I'm going to demonstrate and show you the African slave trade, I'm also going to show you the Indian slave trade that was happening a little bit before this and during this time where they were taking Indians out of North America and taking them to Europe and Africa. They were mixing. This was the trilateral trade situation. They were taking from, taking over, taking from, recycling back and forth. The roots of Spain claimed to South Carolina. First colony. 1607, a group of English settlers founded a colony at this point, where a seat of government remained to founding decades later. Charleston, originally known as Charlestown, the first permanent white settlement in present-day Carolina. That's 1670. 1493, during his second voyage. 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue. That was his first trip. He came back 4 more times. In 1493, during his second voyage, Columbus founded Isabella, the first permanent Spanish settlement in the New World on Hispaniola. After finding gold and recoverable quantities nearby, the Spanish quickly overran the island and spread to Puerto Rico in 1508, to Jamaica in 1509, and to Cuba in 1511. In the Americas, these were the Spanish colonies. Spanish and Britain were historically enemies and had been competitors for the land. Any Spaniard attempting to settle in significant numbers in the British colonies would be considered a major security threat to the colony. South Carolina had been banned, had a ban on all Catholic immigrants to the country. And I don't think people want to take time to go back and deal with how much history it is when it comes to Atlantic slave trade. I think we like to keep the same narrative going. And we brought out of Africa as slaves, and we don't ask the question, who brought who over here and why and where they take them to. So this is part of the attempt to get you guys to ask those tough questions of where were they taken to, what was the year, when. The Spanish erected their own settlement at Paris Island. That's South Carolina, by the way. That's where the Marine Corps go train to this day. In 1566, they called Santa Elena, which served as the Spanish capital of Florida for nearly 2 decades. In 1587, the Spanish abandoned South Carolina for St. Augustine, Florida, although they continued to explore South Carolina. Why is that important? Because now we know where they came to, or at least 300 of them. While several other Englishmen had already been taking slaves from Africa in the mid 1500s, John Hawkins effectively set the pattern that became known as the English slave triangle. Early in his career, he led an expedition which he violently captured 300 Africans in the Sierra Leone coast and transported them to Spanish plantation in the Americas. We just talked about those plantations, or the locations anyway. There, he traded for them pearls, hides, and sugar. His mission was so lucrative that Queen Elizabeth I sponsored his subsequent journeys, plural, and provided ships, plural, supplies, and guns. She also gave him a unique coat of arms bearing a bond slave. Wait till y'all see this shield she gave him. Those were the supposed slave ships right here. Yep. Let's see if we can find this shield. Let's find this coat of arms that she gave him. Talking about Elizabeth the First giving John Hawkins this coat of arms. 15th century, there was a thin line between piracy and privateering. A privateer was an individual's license to attack and raid ships belonging to the enemy government, usually during the war. These private contractors would then pay a cut for their bounty back to the government. These private contractors would then pay a cut of their bounty back to the government. In this case, Sir John Hawkins and Sir Francis Drake, Sir Martin, whatever his name is, Sir Walter Raleigh, collectively as the Sea Dogs, were a group of commissioned by Queen Elizabeth to attack and loot Spanish fleet while England was not at war with Spain. Queen Elizabeth I gave the Sea Dogs legitimacy to plunder Spanish ships and maintain maritime dominance over trade passage. They're them boys right here. His 4 voyages to Sierra Leone coast between 1564 and 1569 took a total of 1,200 Africans across the Atlantic to sell to the Spanish settlers. Let's write that down, please. Let's write down the numbers. Let's write down the numbers. Write down the dates. It's a study class. That's all it is. It ain't gonna be for everybody, and that's okay. But if y'all want to tap in, tap in. She's talking about Spain and their colonies, which were prior to the English colonies. The unique coat of arms bearing a bond slave. Let's check into this real quick. Check out this coat of arms that Queen Elizabeth first gave John Hawkins. And then we'll go back to the Intercaterra Convention because I think it'll make a little bit more sense once we see this symbol. What coat of arms did Elizabeth I give John Hawkins? His name, right? There we go. He was knighted Sir John Hawkins. His coat of arms included an image of an enslaved African man, while it would be 100 years before English merchants would traffic enslaved people in a systematic way. The seed of the trade has been sown. Let's check out that image real quick. There it is right here. It's a bound African slave, which became his coat of arms. That became the coat of arms for John Hawkins and his crew. This was the first image. These are Africans being brought over to the Americas, Central and South America, and along the Carolina coast. And if you're familiar with what a coat of arms is, it's quite an honor. So at this point, write down John Hawkins. Go back to our outline. That's a doctrine of discovery. Write down a doctrine of discovery. Write down John Hawkins. Talked about Queen Elizabeth. Elizabeth the Explorer became what is known as increased trade. So the whole plight with John Hawkins and the boys in the late 1500s, mid 1500s, was to set up trade routes to make the whole entire trade more lucrative. And as far as logistics are concerned, they were the ones who set this stuff up. Spain. I know we say Europe, we say England. It was Spain. Now, we was in Carolina, so I would like to continue to talk about Carolina. Let's talk about the secret Treaty of Verona and the Royal Colonies, Lord Proprietors and Trust Establishment. For those of you taking notes, jot that down real quick. Royal Colonies, Lord Proprietors and Trust, 1624 Company Charter. So after the 1500s, when Spain set up shop, the 1600s follow. So now we're dealing with three kings. We're dealing with three kings. The first king we're going to deal with is King James. King James allowed them to settle in the Virginia colonies. All of us know who King James is. Now, there are rumors out there that this is not the real King James. They said King James is really a swarthy man of color, supposedly. And they got LeBron James up there. That's hilarious. This is King James. King James is the King of Scotland. The Prince of Wales, Prince of Wales. The former King of England. This is the picture they see look like right here. The brother. They say King James is a brother, supposedly. Not hard to believe. So King James was primarily responsible for the first settlement along the Virginia colonies. James VI and James I, House of Stuart. Get the House of Tudor, House of Stuart, House of Aragon, House of Castile. We ain't got time to get into all that. King of Scotland. James VI from 24 July 1567, King of England and Ireland, is James I from the union of Scottish and English crown of 1603 until his death 1625. Although he long tried to get both countries to adopt closer policy union, the Kingdom of Scotland and England remained sovereign states with their own parliament, judiciary, laws, rules by James in a personal union. James was the son of Mary, Queen of Scots, and he was the great-grandson of King Henry VII, which is phenomenal because his great-great-grandfather, King Henry VIII, had the Geneva Bible. And, of course, King James had the King James Version, the newer version of this holy book. King James set up a colony in Virginia in his name, Jamestown. And y'all might be like, man, I know this already. Just stay with me, I promise you. In 1607, 104 Englishmen and boys arrived to North America to start the settlement on May 13th. They picked Jamestown, Virginia for their settlement, which was named after King James I. There's no surprise there, is it? But what was it called? Royal Colony. A colony governed directly by the crown through the governing council and appointed it. Virginia started off as a royal colony. Write down the term royal colony. New York is a proprietary colony. The province of New York and British were proprietary colonies, later royal colonies on the northeast coast of North America of 1664 to 1783. This is all James territory. Now, let's move down to South Carolina, which is the second king. We got King James, King Charles. the province of Caroline or Carolina. This is King Charles. King James, then King Charles. King James gave permission to settle the upper northeast territory of North America. That's Boston, which is Massachusetts, New England territory, New York, Jersey. Below that area, never gonna start getting into the Virginia territory and the Carolina territory. But all this territory at the bottom right here, blow this map up a little bit, show you this map. All this was the Carolinas. This entire territory was the Carolinas. You see that? This was all Spanish territory. From Florida all the way over to Louisiana. This is still past this island chain was Mexico, but still belonged to Spanish by way of Cortez. And I think De Soto went through Central America. This is the Carolinas. 1663, King Charles. The early province of Carolina was the land forming the southern English colony spanning from 31 degrees to 36 degrees north latitude. In 1629, King Charles I of England granted territory to his Attorney General, Sir Robert Heath. The original charter, and I'll probably teach on this for the next 2 years until it resonates with our people on how they acquired the land. This is just part one. Get you guys familiar with new territory, new terminology, new maps, new ideals, so we can push away from the old teachings of slaves come out of Africa, they were enslaved. Now we're going to break down who was doing this stuff. Where were they doing it at? How did they benefit from it? How did they get the charters, the land grants, the heads' rights? King Charles I of England granted territory to his attorney, General Sir Robert Heath. Just a mile below the current Florida-Georgia state line, the region as a whole comprised of all parts of modern-day states: Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, and North Carolina. Charles I named the colony after himself, named Carolina, being derived from Carlos, the Latin name for Charles. All this below this line right here was known as Carolina. Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, Florida. This was all called Carolina. All of it. Who knew that? Did y'all know that? Where my Carolina folks at? Did y'all know that? Y'all thought it was just North and South Carolina? Great question. We're about to get into that. Great question. And see, I know this type of information probably only going to appeal to those who really want to understand the indigenous narrative of North America. Everybody else is just here for entertainment. Not y'all. Everybody who left. But stay with me. We're going to talk about the territory being reclassified as Florida, all of Florida, Alabama, Mississippi. All that stuff comes a little bit later. Great question, though. Great question. So King Charles ran the Carolinas. King James runs the northern hemisphere part of it. The land Carolina was granted to his attorney, General Sir Robert Heath, by King Charles in 1629. So in 1629, his attorney received a charter for that territory. We're going to talk about what charters are too, what land grants are too, what head rights, the Head Rights Act, how they were able to give away so much territory under these documents. Remember, the first document was the 1493 Indica Terra Cavina I showed you earlier. There's other documents. I'm going to show you how they came over under what was called the Great Race to settle the New World, and how they went about doing it, and how they usurped the land from the indigenous people under property rights, but not straight up under the ecclesiastical rights by saying that their God is bigger, their God is better, their God told them to do it. That's why the Pope gave them the order to do it. It was issued by the Pope. Had the Pope never gave the order, it never would have happened. Had Constantine never had the vision, in hoc sec vignes, in this time we should conquer. This is an old war. This is not new. The part I'm telling y'all right now was after we lost the war. We've been fighting with these YT people for a long time. See, we're learning about the last parts of the history. You hear about the enslavement. Prior to the enslavement, let's find out who we're enslaved. Then in 1698, Daniel Cox acquired the title from Heath. They're trading titles. So in 1698, Daniel Cox became the rightful landowner of the Carolinas, all of it. Just like you trade a title for a car. That's why with property such as houses, cars, there's a title, there's a receipt. You can do a title swap. Anybody ever sold a car before? Had to do a title swap. This is the same thing that they were doing with people and land, swapping titles. Anybody ever been to court and see that big seal behind the judge and it says established in 16 whatever or 17 something or 18 something? That seal is a part of their charter. Great question. That map was 1561. I'll go back to the map in a second. Then in 1698, Daniel Cox acquired the title from Heath under the claim that the region in the rear of Carolina settlements included the lower Mississippi Valley. There are only two references to the Carolina found in modern day maps that were first found on a map in 1651. I apologize. 1651, map of Virginia published by John Farrell. There's your answer, sis. Tamaria L. Here's part of your answer. Let's write this down. 1651 map of Virginia published by John Farrell. So let's start with John Farrell and check out the map he put up. The second referred to a map of the Carolinas in the river of Metabisky, published by Colonel Daniel Cox Jr. There's your second reference, sister. There's your two references. This is how we're gonna study. There's your answer right there. Let's take a look at those two gentlemen, sis, and let me know what you come up with, because I'll be interested to know also. These people who create these maps, because you guys do know, like the world map, there's two different maps. There's a Peter projection map and there's a Gaulo-Marketian map when it comes to different maps. Heath was an attorney to Charles I, 1629. The king granted Heath with a patent and a title. Look at the language they're using. Land patents, titles, charters. To the territory of Carolina, the king granted Heath the charter to spread Christianity into the New World and lead a colony, as well as increase trade, particularly in tobacco. Heath had already explored much of the region and was council member of the Virginia colony. Soon after receiving a charter, Heath began to make deals to allow French Protestant colonize the area, but Charles only granted permission to English people, no Protestants or Catholics. The land was then sold to various individuals in an attempt to form a lasting colony. Dr. Daniel Cox, an English physician and the Land Spectator, acquired the title from the Carolina to Sir Robert Heath and then owned the patent from 1698 to 1730. Cox was called to present his claim at the Board of Trade in 1719 because they were trying to settle the colony boundaries with France under the Treaty of Urenchit. The treaty. He reasserted his claim in the territory, but to his colony never materialized. Cox was a prime advocate for expansion of Great Britain's colonization in the north towards the Appalachian Mountains. He was granted permission by King William III to settle the area where French Protestant refugees, Huguenots, and were fleeing from French Revolution. Cox and the Sons of the Colony, Daniel Cox, wrote a piece titled Description in English, blah, 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 so on and so forth. Land disputes. Now we get into the wars, or the first contact conferences over land squabble. The Anglo-Spanish War. Now we say Anglo-Spanish War. We're not talking about the so-called Mexicans. We're talking about the people from Spain. The Spaniards are here fighting at this point. We're not talking about Felipe them from Mexico. When we say Spanish, we're talking about literally the country of Spain is over here fighting. This was the Anglican that England and Spain are fighting over here over who gets the territory of North America due to the Inter Terra Convena of that Charter of 1493 I just showed you, that I can show you again. That document gave credence to all European successors to come over here and settle what they could settle, but they had to do it under the consecration of the king and in the name of Christianity. That's the only way to come settle the lands over here. So now you get little squabbles and disputes between France, Spain, and Britain on who gets what territory. But Spain was here first. Then French came. Then the British came. So now the British are fighting the Spanish, and the Spanish are fighting the French over territory of North America. But the whole time, people are already here. King Charles I took the throne in 1625. And like his predecessor, King James I, 3 kings. Charles, James, and George. We haven't got to George yet. So write down the 3 kings real quick. Write down King Charles, King James, and King George. King James, the Northern Territory, Virginia, Massachusetts, Nova Scotia, New England. They call it New York, that area that way. Then the next section of America, the Carolinas mainly, which is the middle South below Virginia, King Charles. And then finally, the lower half of the South, Georgia territory going into Spanish territory, Florida, we're going to deal with King George. Those are the 3 kings. In order to know history, you have to know European history or Western history. Today, we're talking about Western history or Western civilization. We haven't made no mentions of anything dealing with the slave trade in depth yet. We have to talk how it got to that point. Then we can go back and understand the dynamic of the first and second Atlantic slave trade. Then it'll make more sense to you. By 1629, Charles I had granted Heath the land Carolina and wanted to expand for his colonization to consist of only English people who were part of the Church of England, no Protestants. Because see, the protest movement just had happened a little while ago. The protest movement was with Martin Luther. So the Europeans are bringing everything over here. So no Protestants and no Catholics were allowed in the English colony, only the Church of England. Carolina had several different proprietaries over his lifetime, so many that there was confusion over who owned the patent. Not the land specifically, not the soil, but the patent that was attached to the land. Speaking of that, let's go back and check out another company. Let's check out some of the earlier companies who had a say-so in land ownership. I know this is the part of history nobody wants to talk about. It's like, it's so dry. I don't want to talk about this part of history. But learning this part of history, man, gives you a bird's eye view on what happened to the slave trade, man. Like it gives you such an inside bird's eye view. The Virginia Company of London was a joint stock company chartered. There's that word again. Chartered. By King James I, 1606, to colonize the eastern coast of North America. The company goals were to make a profit for its shareholders, establish English colony, and to gain wealth and power in England. That was the whole point. by any means necessary. This was the whole point right here. To make a profit for his shareholders. That was it. Now, besides the Virginia company, you also had the London Tea Company and several other companies. A petition submitted to King calling for an investigation of conditions in the colonies led by trial before King's bench. Blah, 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 nothing to do with that. The Virginia company, let's tap into it real quick. Also known as the Plymouth Company, too. There's a coat of arms. Remember that last coat of arms? It had the bound African at the top. There was a coat of arms for John Hawkins. This is Queen Elizabeth right here. They just replaced the inbound, the bound African with her face on it. I'll show you that in a second. We'll go back to it in case you forgot it. This is called the Virginia Company. It's a public traded company founded by James I in 1624. The products for the company was cash crops, timber, and tobacco, all from the Americas. The divisions were the London Company and the Plymouth Company. Those are two divisions of the Virginia Company. London Company. The Virginia Company was an English trading company. An English trading company. Trading companies are businesses working with different kinds of product, which are sold for consumers, business, or government purposes. Trading companies buy specialized ranges products, maintaining a stock or shop and deliver products. This is all this is about. Nobody's talking about human trafficking yet. They didn't see it as human trafficking. They saw it as goods and products, supply and demand. That's all it was saw for. We emotionalize it as something else. There's a lot of stuff to connect, and I'm attempting to give you some of the pieces to the puzzle. So the Virginia Trading Company, and we already know what they were trading. Amongst tobacco, amongst rice, they were also trading people. So we just got to stop with the slave trade and start calling names. Start being specific about who did what. That's how you get accountability. Just can't lump them all together. Because as long as you say, oh, the Europeans are trading, the Spanish and the French are like, well, they ain't say us. Because we're not European. These are British trading companies. April 10th, 1606, with the objective of colonizing the eastern coast of America, the coast was named Virginia after Elizabeth I. We talked about Elizabeth I giving John Hawkins that contract, right? So we already know who she is off the top. She has ties with John Hawkins. This is Elizabeth, not Isabella. Isabella is the Queen of Spain. This is Queen of England. You have Elizabeth, then you have Isabella. Isabella and Ferdinand was the Indica Terra Covina. Elizabeth gave John Hawkins permission and a seal or crest to go conquer other ships that had enslaved people on it and capture them. It's stretched from present-day Maine. I told you that Maine was called Nova Scotia or New England. Today, it still is called the New England Territory. After Queen Elizabeth, from Maine to the Carolinas. 1663, King Charles, remember him? We talked about him just now. The company shareholders were Londoners. People from London. Shareholders. So outside of the raw product, the GDP, the gross domestic product, importation and deportations of slaves were definitely on the docket for trading. And it was distinguished from the Plymouth Company, which was chartered at the same time and composed largely of gentlemen from Plymouth. So Plymouth and Londoners. The biggest trade breakthrough result after the adventures of John Rolfe introduced several sweeteners and strands of tobacco from the Caribbean. This yielded a more appealing product than the harsh taste tobacco native to Virginia. Cultivating of Rolfe new tobacco strain produced a stronger commodity crop, for exports for London Company and the earlier English colonies and helped to balance the national trade deficit with Spain. The company failed in 1624 following a widespread destruction of the Great Massacre of 1622 by indigenous people in the colonies, which decimated the English population. The Great Massacre of 1622, write that down. Because now we're talking about the 100-year Indian War, or what they say the 100-year Indian War is a 400-year Indian War. It went on to the time of Nat Turner. We've been fighting since forever. We, all of us, the Africans who came over here and been here for a couple hundred years, who amalgamated amongst the natives, all of us, we knew we had one common enemy. It wasn't us. For all intents and purposes, the Africans who came to North America in the early 1500s had already agreed to hang out with the local. Y'all just like us. Y'all look like us too. The Great Massacre of 1622. Let's write that down, please. Let's check it out, see what it was. The Indian Massacre of 1622. Hold on. Sorry about that, y'all. Indian Massacre of 1622, part of the British colonization of Americas and the Anglo-Powhatan Wars. It happened in the colony of Virginia. It was a massacre, they said. The Powhatan tribesmen. So this is the Powhatan. You got the Powhatan. You got the Natchez, Wampanoag. These are the natives up in Virginia territory. The Indian Massacre of 1622 took place in the English colony of Virginia on April 1st. English explorer John Smith thought, though he wasn't an eyewitness, wrote in the history of Virginians that the warriors of the Powhatan came unarmed into our houses with deer, turkey, fish, fruit, and other provisions to sell us. They then grabbed any tools or weapons available and killed all English settlers they found, including men, women, and children of all ages. I ain't gonna try to say his name. He was the chief of the Powhatan Confederacy, led a coordinated series of surprise attacks, ended up killing a total of 347 people, a quarter of the population in the colony of Virginia, found in 1607 Jamestown. But the site, first successful English settlement of North America, served as the capital of the colony. The town's tobacco economy, which quickly degraded the land and required new land, led to settlers contest expansion of seizure of Powhatan land, ultimately provoking the massacre. They was trying to take the land. Who are the Powhatan people? The Powhatan Confederacy. Who's these English folks fighting? Who are they fighting? Who are they fighting? This is the Confederacy. The watcher, I cannot say that. I'm even going to try to say it. The First Anglican War was 1610. The Treaty of 1677. You got Bacon's Rebellion in 1676. Bacon's Rebellion was also a unique rebellion because this was both YT slaves and supposed indigenous Negro slaves had got together in 1676 for that. It was followed by the Powhatan and other Pamunkey, another Virginia Indian tribe, the Wampanoag, Chickahominy. It's a name given to the Powhatan people to their native homeland, the area comprising of all Tidewater, Virginia. Shouts out to 757 DMV area, also up north of that area. The parts of the Eastern Shore, more precisely, its boundaries span 100 miles by 100 miles, from near the south side to the mouth of the James River, all the way to the side of Potomac River, and Eastern Shore west about the fall line. Powhatan Confederacy. We should be writing them down too. The charters, the license, the treaties are in effect today. There you go. That's thank you. This is the whole point of it. No matter what we're talking about, proclaiming nationality, proclaim the land. Man, this land is under charters. This land is on so much paperwork, older documentation. This is just part one. We're just going over notes, y'all. Virginia Company, Plymouth Company, you had the East Indian Company, you got the Dutch Indian Company. Land patents is a form of letter patent assigned official ownership to a particular tract of land. They were under land patents. They had put the land under patent. They charted the land. I got a couple words to check out. Y'all know I'm on the Apple computer. So I don't know how to do the right click copy paste on the Apple computer. Can copy paste though. Let's look at land proprietors real quick. We're going to go to Georgia and we'll wrap it up. Lower proprietors, sorry. Go back to the Carolina territory, then we go to Georgia territory. Lower proprietors. We're still in South Carolina, in the Carolinas. We almost made it to Georgia. Hold on. We're going to get there. Lower proprietors were 8 Englishmen who Charles II, James, Charles, George, 3 kings, granted by the Carolina Charters of 1663 to 65 the joint ownership of a tract of land in the New World called Carolina. All of these men had remained loyal to the crown and had aided Charles in restoration to the English throne. 2 of them, William Berkeley, former governor of Virginia, that's where the Berkeley Bridge comes from, and John Collecton and West Indian planters, actually had some personal knowledge of the New World. The other 6 proprietors were Edward, Earl of Clarendon, George, the Duke of something, William, the Earl of something, Berkeley, Cooper, and then Sir George. Although the king retained full sovereignty over Carolina, over that territory, you guys have to understand they owned the land already before they got here. So any native, any black tribe, African tribe, no matter what tribe was already over here, they had authority over that tribe. They already had ascertained authority over that tribe. This is the 1700s. Let me go back. It's like I'm going too fast, or I'm not connecting the dots right now. This is how I feel right now. Let me go back. With this document, they had already had the rights to the territory of North, Central, and South America under this doctrine right here. This doctrine was so important to us understanding how they got access to the land. The Papal Bull, Enter Caetera, issued by Pope Alexander VI, May 4th, 1493. Now we're talking about the 1600s. Now this is almost 200 years after the fact, 100 something years after the fact that this had been issued. The bull stated that any land not inhabited by Christians was available to be discovered, claimed, exploited by Christian rulers, and declared that the Catholic faith and Christian religion be exalted and everywhere increase and spread in the health of souls to be cared for, the barbarous nations to be overthrown and brought to the faith itself. For the barbarous nations, there were nations already over here. Like this was a whole confederacy over here in North America, Central America, South. These were confederacies. These were already established territories, governing territories. This is no different than them taking over Iraq, Iran, or any current war right now. This is the same thing. They're doing the same thing. The kings leased the land to lower proprietors. The kings leased the land to some lord proprietors. So you have to understand and it's a great question too. I'm glad you're paying attention. The northern territory of like New York and New Hampshire and everything new north of Virginia was under Royal Colony directly to the king. And the king would lease it out in exchange for whatever came off the land. They had to give a portion back to the king. So the king leased the land to lord proprietors. They either leased the land to lord proprietors or they would do what's called charter the land. Because when we get into Georgia, you're going to see that Georgia, the state of Georgia, or the colony of Georgia, was chartered under a trust. The territory of Georgia was under a trust. So who were the trustors to the trustee? I'm giving y'all context on what this document did. As we talk about the kings and how they get the territories of North America, this document gave rise to that ideology. And this document is the same as the Western expansion in North America in the 1849 gold rush, known as Manifest Destiny. This was the first Manifest Destiny doctrine. This was the first one. The bull stated that any land not inhabited by Christians, not inhabited by people, just if they're not Christians, they don't count. No matter what they believe in, no matter how long they've been there, no matter about their mounds, their statues, their temples, their treaties, their traditions, their costumes, their feathers, their skin tone, their noses. We don't care. We do not care about none of that. So we don't care. You've been here first. You're not a Christian. We don't care. We're not counting you. We're not even going to document you being here. The bull stated any land not inhabited by Christians was available to be discovered, claimed, exploited. You know what exploitation means? When somebody exploits you, you ever been exploited? They were exploited. This doctrine of discovery became the basis of all European claims. Let me highlight this shit, man, because y'all, I don't feel like y'all hear me, man. This doctrine of discovery became the basis of all European claims in the Americas, as well as the foundation for the United States Western expansion. In the U.S. Supreme Court 1823 case Johnson versus McIntosh, Chief Justice John Marshall, opinion in the unanimous decision held that the principles of the discovery gave European nations absolute right to the New World lands. And in essence, American Indians had only a right of occupancy, which could be abolished. Nobody has ever challenged this in the Supreme Court. Why don't the Moors go challenge this with the paper piracy? Go challenge this doctrine. They know about it. Tyreek Bates talks about it all the time, the doctrine of discovery. Pontifex. He talks about it all the time. Now, a doctrine that was put out in 1493, revisited in 1823, it still stands to this day in 2024. The U.S. Supreme Court, Supreme Law of the Land, said, in his opinion, in a unanimous decision, held that the principles of discovery gave European nations an absolute right to the New Worlds. The principles of the age of discovery. What were the principles? What were the principles of this? Let's see if we can find it. Hold on. Let's just read it. Let's read through it. Let's read through it real quick. Wherefore, as becomes Catholic kings and princesses, after earnest consideration of all matters, especially of that of the rise and spread of the Catholic faith, as was the fashion of your ancestors. They're venerating their ancestors. They're honoring their ancestors. Kings of renowned memory, you have purposed with the favor of divine clemency to bring under your sway the said mainlands and islands with their residents and inhabitants. And that's what you are today. You are a resident. You reside in Virginia. You reside in California. You reside in New Orleans. You reside in Georgia. You reside in Alabama. You are a resident. And they give you a geographical nomenclature, which is called a zip code, to identify your residency. You're a visitor. Even though you've been here, you are a visitor. And this is why the argument still goes on in the Black community between the so-called African Americans and the indigenous people. Y'all both residents, according to this. Let's keep going. Divine clemency. Where I ended that? Clemency. To bring under your sway to the mainlands and the resident inhabitants, to bring them to the Catholic faith. Hence, heartily commending the Lord is your holy and praiseworthy purpose, and desirous that it be duly accomplished, and that the name of our Savior be carried in those regions. We exhort you very earnestly in the Lord by our receptions of holy baptism, whereby you are bound to the apostolic commands by the bowels of mercy of our Lord Jesus Christ. Enjoy strictly and as much with eager zeal for the true faith you design to equip and dispatch this expedition. You purpose also, expanding your purpose is your duty to lead the people dwelling in those islands and countries to embrace the Christian religion, nor at any time let danger or hardship deter you from therefrom. And with the stout hope and trust of your hearts in Almighty God will further your undertaking. And in orders you may enter upon great and undertaking with great readiness and hardness, endowed with benefit of our apostolical favor. We, of our own accord, not at your instance, nor the request of anyone else in regards, but out of our own soul, largely in certain knowledge, out of fullness, our apostle power, by the authority of Almighty God, conferred upon the blessed Peter in the victorship of Jesus Christ, which we hold on earth, do by tender of those presents. Should if any said island have been found in your endeavors, and captains give, grant, and assign to you your heirs and successors, kings of Castile and Leon, forever together with all dominion, cities, camps, places, and villages, all rights, and jurisdiction. They gave them all rights and jurisdiction. Why are you challenging the jurisdiction of the courts? Why are you asking for what jurisdiction? We just learned about the term jurisdiction about what, 4, 5, 6 years ago? Adjudication. Apprentices, all islands and mainlands found to be discovered towards the west and south by drawing and establishing a line from the Arctic Pole, namely the north, and the Antarctic Pole, namely the south, no matter whether the said mainlands and islands are found and are to be found in direct of India or towards any other quarter, said line, be distinct 100 leagues towards the west from the south to the Cape Verdes, with this proviso, however, that none of the islands and mainlands found to be discovered beyond said line towards the west and south, the actual possession of any Christian kingdom or prince upon the birthday of our Lord Jesus Christ can pass from one which presents 1,493 beginning. And we make a point to dispute you and your said heirs. And we make a point and depute you and your said heirs and successor lords of them with full free power, authority, and jurisdiction of every kind. With the provost, however, that by this our gift grant assignment no rights acquired by any Christian prince, and who may be in actual possession of said islands and mainlands prior to their said birthday of our Lord Jesus Christ, is hereby understood to be withdrawn and taken away. Moreover, we command you the virtue of holy obedience. Y'all get the point? This is what they said. This is what was said in the Indica Terra Cavina. This is why they went so hard. Look at this last part. We trust in him from whom's empire and government and all good things proceed, that shall have you Lord's guidance. Pursue this holy and praiseworthy undertaking. In a short while, your hardship and endeavors will attain the most felicitous results in happiness, in glory, in all Christendom. So I talked to y'all about Christendom, the conquesting. This was the conquest, the spread that gave them rise to owning lands over here. Carolina was given to Lord proprietors. Moreover, proprietary endured disruption throughout the troubles with the Indians. You're going to continue to see squabbles. Early 1700s, 1600s, 1500s. You're going to see squabbles of territory, over territory and land, because a confederacy was already here when they came over here with their godship taking over the lands. And this is why it's taught in the Moorish Science Temple that Noble Joali expressed that we must return Christianity and the church back to Europeans. It was created for their salvation. Christianity was created for their salvation. They created this for their conquesting and their salvation because they were dying. When they overthrew the Moors in Spain, they just came through the bubonic plague, the Dark Ages. This was for the regeneration of their kingdom and their heirs and their ancestors, that they came the way they came, toppling our kingdoms over here, our empires over here. By January 1712, the vast tract was separated into the north and southern parts in hopes of improving civic conditions. With their venture so lacking in success, proprietaries were feeling pressured from the crown to return the land. In 1719, South Carolina was set apart as a royal colony. In 1729, George II made cash payments to all but one of the proprietors to end their heirs' role as guarantees of the formal Carolina. Only the heirs of George and Lord Carter, later second Earl of Granville, refused to sell 1/8 of his share and eventually granted a large tract of known Granville district. And to give you all the territories of the Carolina district that were bought and purchased right here. The land was sold, cash, bought and sold. George II made a cash payment to all but one of the proprietors. There were 8 lord proprietors that King Charles gave the land to. George bought them out of the land. So now the land, the territory we saw earlier, looked like Carolina. All that territory now belongs to somebody else. What was his name? This is James Oglethorpe. James Oglethorpe is the governor of the Georgia colony. He got a charter from King George. That's the third king you should wrote down. You should have King James, King Charles, King George. He signed up the Georgia colony. So if you've been paying attention, we've kind of been going down the East Coast from the New England territory all the way down to Carolina territory. Now we're at the bottom territory of Georgia and Florida. James Edward Oglethorpe, founder of the colony of Georgia, was born December 22nd, 1696 in Yorkshire, England. After graduating from Eton Corpus Christian College, Oxford, Oglethorpe began a military career in 1717, fighting against the Turks. That's interesting. Champion of oppression, 1722 to 1743, Oglethorpe served in the British House of Commons. That's another one of those reputable forms of government. House of Tudors, House of Commons, House of Burgesses. He was in the British House of Commons. James Oglethorpe, watch this. House of Burgesses. The House of Burgesses was the first democratically elected legislative body in the British American colonies, meeting for the first time in Jamestown, Virginia, July 30th, 1619. The House of Burgesses was made up of an elect representative from each county in the colony, with the exception of towns that could petition and send a single representative. The House of Burgesses was important part of development of the colonies. So the House of Burgesses, Continental Congress.
According to Wikipedia, the Continental Congress was a series of legislative bodies with some executive function for the 13 colonies of Great Britain in North America and the newly declared United States before, during, and after the American Revolutionary War.
The House of Burgesses was the first body of government with the European side up over here on the territory. So once they had access to the land under these grants from the king, they quickly began to set up forms of government. So when we talk about them not having proper jurisdiction of the land, they ascertain jurisdiction by forming their own forms of government. So when you hear the word said government, which is not the true government, these Europeans are not from here. Remember, they want to invoke these laws and these they have to go back home to do that. But they set up independent bodies of government over here that represent what they had over there. This is this is what they're doing. This is what they've always been doing. That's why there's so much war and rebellion, people pushing it back against it, because this is not the true form of government that belongs over here. It's something that they side up. House of Burgesses, let's go back. James Oglethorpe sets up the Georgia colony under a trust. Let's read about it real quick. James Oglethorpe. Lieutenant General James Oglethorpe, December 1696 to 1785, was a British Army officer, Tory, political fascist, political and colonial administrator, best known for founding the province of Georgia in the British North America. As a social reform, but he hoped to resettle British worthy poor in the New World, initially focusing on those debtors' prison. Georgia was a slave colony. No. Not the black slaves. These were the white slaves. These were the white slaves. Let me show you. English colonies, 1780. There you go, right here. Let's see if we can get a map to show y'all. See right here? It's 13 colonies. So the individuals they brought into the colonies were from Europe. They were European immigrants who were under a contract. They were called indentured servants. They agreed to come over here. And in exchange, if they worked for 7 years really, really hard, they would be let out of their contract and they get their own lots of land to grow and do whatever. But whatever they grew in that land, they had to give a portion back to the crown as a tax. They tried to tax the tea, and that's where the Tea Party and the tax, the Boston Harbor, all that crap came in. But everything else on this land is being taxed and sent back over to the crown. That's what the IRS is for, Inquisition Revenue Service. That's what they're for, to tax all wages, crops, whatever you purchase by, it goes back. A portion, 40% goes back to the crown today. Indentured servants in the colonies were run down to the Georgia territory as debtor slaves. What made them debtor slaves is the fact that their contract carried a bounty on it. The contract that they had money attached to it. Those white indentured servants, those contracts still had money on it from the investors who sponsored them to come over here. They had sponsors who allowed them to come over here in exchange for not paying. They went into what's called debtor prisons. These were poor European immigrants who went to the Georgia territory, and that's why Georgia was never set up to be a slave colony. It was a free state in the beginning, because James Oglethorpe wanted to house those white indentured servants down, the white slaves in that particular area. Oglethorpe was a major figure in Georgia's early history, holding much civil and military power and instituting a ban on slavery and alcohol in Georgia. He wanted those white slaves to remain in that territory free. This was free territory for the white slaves. Free territory for the white slaves. Not the Negroes. They were 1740. There were no Negro slaves in the South yet. It's coming though. However, I don't want us to forget about this though. Before we go too far into the Georgia territory, being set up on what's called a Well, let's keep going just real quick. Then I go back to that. Let's go back to that. His early years, I'm right here. His early years were relatively undistinguished until 1729, when he was made chair of the Gallows Committee that invested British debtors' prison. The Gallows Committee was a notorious prison in South. Let's get into it. The commissar erupted fast in 1728 when the Robert Castile, an architect and debtor in the Fleet prison, who had been living in lodges outside of jail with the rules, had taken into a sponge house after refusing to pay a higher prison fee. The Fleet notorious ward Thomas Bombridge sponging houses were private lodges where prisoners who were incarcerated before taken to jail, they could acquire the name because they squozed the prisoner's last money out of him. When Castile arrived to Sponging House on the 14th of November, he was forced to share a space with a man who was dying of smallpox. As a result, he became infected. He died less than a month later. Castile had a friend, James Oglethorpe, a Tory MP, who years later founded the American colony of Georgia. Oglethorpe began to ask questions about the treatment of debtors' prisons. These are slaves. They call them debtors. They calling them indentured servants. These are slaves. These are European slaves. Understand who these are. These are European slaves we're talking about. Debtors. And I'm going to show you something else that relates to the debtors' prison. That is a Latin word out of this same idealism under what's called feudalism. The term is civil mortuus, loss of all rights. These people were in a perpetual state of debt. They were known as debt slaves. Also under the condition was called civil mortuus. These are white slaves. And I'm just giving you guys the other part of the history. This is the other part. I know we don't want to look into European history. It may be boring to us. The Black history stuff is more exciting to us, but we have to know this side of it too in order to have intellectual conversation. Serfs were a little bit different. Serfs were bound to the manor. Serfs had no idea they were slaves. They were just born into this condition. So close. Serfdom is close. Serfdom is a close condition. Also, good comment. Debtors' prison and group of debtors, perhaps at Oglethorpe's instigation, lodge a complaint about their treatment with Lord Mayor of London, his alderman, who interviewed Fleet's warden on December 21st, 1728. Look at that person at the bottom. That's a swarthy YT man. This is a swarthy. What happened to it? Picture. I blew my page up. I lost the picture. Hold on. I'm gonna get it back. Where it go? Oh man. There you go, right here. There you go. That's a swarthy YT man. That's not an African. That's not a Black person. That's a swarthy YT person. This is in Europe, by the way. James Oglethorpe was a huge proponent for freeing these white serfs of these. She said 13th Amendment slave. 13th Amendment wasn't around yet, but you got the point. These were European slaves. We're not talking about Black folks. We're not talking about Africans. We're not talking about nobody but Europeans right now. The word slave don't belong to Black people. That word don't belong to us. Anytime you hear that word slave, don't automatically put your mind in dealing with Black folks. It was them first. I'm just showing you how James Oglethorpe was a huge champion against slavery dealing with white folks. And he wanted to set the state of Georgia up under a charter as a free territory. Horace Walpole wrote 1749, the scene is the committee on the table, the instruments of torture. A prisoner of rags, half starved, appears before him. The poor man has a good countenance and adds an interest. And on the other hand, its inhumane glory, its very figure, Salvatore Rosa, who has been drawn in logos. A moment to say, I don't know who that is. Let's read about him real quick. These are YT people. They're explaining this picture as they're showing the torture devices on the table, how they're mistreating these YT slaves. In February 29th, the House of Commons appointed Parliament Committee, the Gallows Committee, chaired by Oglethorpe, to examine the conditions in the fleet and the Marshallee. The committee visited the fleet on the 27th of February and the Marshallee on 25th. Williams Harcourt accompanied the committee on his visit to the fleet, sketching it, the painting in oil. The painting was commissioned by Sir Archibald Grant. The committee was shocked by prisoners' living conditions. These are European YT slaves. These are not black folks. So all that territory that they're setting up in the 13 colonies, in the initial 1600s, 1700s, these are YT workers who are under contract, who they're forcing to work. A lot of them did not honor their contract and they ran away to the Georgia territory. Right. These are the Slavs. These are the Slavs. I'm going to show you the Slavs also. These are the European prisoners who are working the land. The fact that they brought Africans to North America was much later. They tried it in 1591, 93. I showed that earlier with the Spanish colony. They tried it earlier. It didn't work out. They escaped, amalgamated amongst Native Americans. And then I showed you the Great Massacre in 1622, where we massacred those encampments they had called colonies. When they first tried to come, we slaughtered them people. Get out of here with that mess, with your diseases and stuff. This is them bringing European prisoners over here to the colonies, putting them on plantations. In the fleet, they found Sir William Rich, a baron. He was a baron or a baron in irons and cuffs. Unable to pay the prison fee, he had been burned with a red hot poker, hit with a stick, and kept in the dungeon for 10 days, having wounds and warts with a shoemaker's knife. And the Marshallees, they found the prisoners on the common side who being routinely starved to death. All support, such poor wretches, have to be subsidized on an incidental allowance of pez, given once a week by a gentleman who concealed the name about 30 pounds of beef provided by a voluntary contribution of the judge and officers of the Marshies on Monday, Wednesdays, and Friday, which divided every small portion of about 1.5 ounces. They had to take a charity to feed these white prisoners. They were dying of starvation. They were being treated horrible. Ooh, look at them slave ship pictures. Nut to butt. They packed like sardines. Oh, look at that. They sleeping under each other. What does it look like to y'all? Look like a slave ship, don't it? Look at these white tea people. Why they ain't showing y'all this? Why they ain't teaching y'all this right here? Why ain't showing these pictures of them? All right, let's go back out. Let's go back. To investigate the British debtors' prison. After reporting on the published a wide spread attention, Oglethorpe and others began publicizing the idea of a new British colony to serve as a buffer between Carolina and Spanish Florida. Between the Carolina and Spanish Florida. After being granted a charter, he sailed to Georgia in 1732. So Georgia wasn't even signed up until after 1732. That was just the Carolinas in 1663. Georgia and Florida still belonged to Spanish territory. Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, all belonged to the Spaniards at this time. Okay? No, indentured servants were only the ones who went into contract. The prisoners didn't go into contract. The prisoners just were sent over here to work, period. The indentured servants went into contract. And I'll show you in a second how they went into contract. It was a contractual agreement to come over here and work. Just a contract. You know who else was an indentured servant? The first black slave owner. He was in contract. He was from Africa. Indentured servitude. We'll talk about that in a second. I got you. Oglethorpe was a major figure in Georgia's early history, holding much civil and military power, instituting a ban on slavery and alcohol in Georgia. He was banning slavery in Georgia. Slavery was not allowed in Georgia at its beginning due to the fact of so many YT slaves who were already in that territory. He wanted to go ahead and ban it and set it up as a post to give them a better lead on life. During the war, the Jenkins era, he led British troops in Georgia against Spanish forces based in Florida. 1740, he led a lengthy siege of St. Augustine, which was unsuccessful. He then defeated the Spanish invasion in Georgia in 1742. Oglethorpe left Georgia after another unsuccessful invasion of St. Augustine and never returned. He led the government troops of Jacobites rising in 1745. The Jacobite rise 1745. And was blamed for his role in the Clifton Moor skirmish. Ooh, look at these terms. The Clifton Moor skirmish, 1745, on this land. Did y'all know about that? The Clifton Moor skirmish took place on the evening of Wednesday, 18th December, 1745. The Jacobite Rising. Y'all know who the Jacobites are? You ever heard of the Jacobites? Y'all know about the Ben Ishmael tribe? You know about the Ben Ishmael, the Jacobites, the Clifton Moor skirmish? All this was happening in this territory we call Georgia now in 1745. There's so much history that was left out of the books that we don't know about. Oh, it gets me excited. Oglethorpe left Georgia after an unsuccessful invasion of St. Augustine, never returned again. Despite being... Oh, crap. My bad, family. He defeated Spanish invasion of Georgia in 1742. Oglethorpe left Georgia after an unsuccessful invasion of St. Augustine. He never returned again. Despite being cleared in court-martial, Oglethorpe never held a military command again. He lost re-election to the House of Commons in 1754. He left England, possibly serving undercover in the Persian army during the 7-Year War. And later that year, Oglethorpe was promoted a prominent and literary circle, becoming close to James Boswell and Samuel Johnson. His history goes back to William the Conqueror. He supported Charles I in England. This is just some background on James Oglethorpe. I haven't got to the fact that he was from another Stuart. Oglethorpe's father brought a commission to Queens. Oglethorpe traveled to France. He was a member of Parliament. In 1728, in response to the poor living and working conditions of sailors in the Royal Navy, Oglethorpe published an anonymous pamphlet. He was a little shit starter too. Those are the gallows courts. We saw that the YT slaves that he was trying to save. He established Georgia for those YT slaves under charter. Here we go. Meat and potatoes. While working in the gallows committee, Oglethorpe became close to John Percival. who later became the Earl of Egmont. After leaving the committee, Oglethorpe considered sending around 100 unemployed people from London to America. 100 unemployed people. 100 unemployed people. Here we go. Pay attention, please. In 1730, he shared his plan to establish a new American colony with Percival. In the colony would be placed to send the unemployed and unemployable, not black folks, not Indians, not Negroes, not slave. These are for YT people, to send unemployed and unemployable YT people. And he anticipated broad societal support. The trustee of the estate. What estate? The real estate, the territory known as Georgia. The trustee of the estate of a man named King soon granted Oglethorpe 5,000 pounds for the colony. He began looking at other sources to of funding by Thomas Bray, and a reverend philanthropist. Bray, in failing health in 1730, he founded Bray Association to continue his humanitarian work. Percival was a trustee of the associates, and Oglethorpe was made the trustee in February in 1730. He became the trustee of the territory called Georgia. Although initially there were no set locations for the colony, Oglethorpe settled on America April 1st, and it soon became clear the colony south of Savannah River would be supported by the House of Commons, and as it was a buffer between, look at that, beautiful, beautiful, man. This is Georgia territory, beautiful territory. As it became a buffer between prosperous Carolina and Spanish Florida, and Oglethorpe picked the region on 26th of June. People sent to the colonies would serve both soldiers and farmers, making the colony, South Carolina, the first line of defense. In July, they started the campaign to raise money through subscriptions and grants. This is your indentured servitude coming up. They had to sign away under contract to come over here to be a farmer or a soldier for the colony. They were unhireable, vagabonds, bombs, poor people, poor YT people. On June 9th, 1732, Oglethorpe, Percival, Martin, and a group of other prominent Britons, collectively known as the trustees for the establishment of the colony of Georgia, petitioned where they eventually granted a royal charter to establish the colony of Georgia. Why isn't anybody talking about these charters, these land grants, these trustees? If there's a trustee, there's trustors. Who are the trustors of Georgia? Who are the trustors of the territory of Carolina? Who are the trustors of any territory that were claimed by these Britons or these Frenchmen or these Spaniards under the 1493 Indica Terra Covina Doctrine of Discovery, which is a legal, lawful doctrine to conquer the lands west of the Canary Islands, known as the Americas. The whole entire territory is under the crown. All 48 colonies. You call them 48 states, call them what you want to call them. There are 48 colonies. Come on, man. The next month, they selected the first group to send to the colony. Listen to this. From a wide-ranging applications, Oglethorpe's mother had died June 19th. He decided to join the group and travel to Georgia. He was formally placed in charge of publicizing the Georgia colony on August 3rd. The summer, a letter by whoever that is, an enslaved African trader, reached Oglethorpe, who purchased and freed this person. That summer, a letter written by this brother right here. Ooh-wee, look at him. He got the fez and the turban on. He got the fez and the turban on. Ain't nobody talked about him. If this is your first time seeing him, give me a 222 in the comments. If you've never seen this more, let's talk about this more a little bit. No, he's an MOOR more. He's not a Moor. He's definitely from the Iberian Peninsula. Islamic, Sunni. Suleiman Dilian, also known as Job bin Solomon, Job, son of Solomon, was a prominent Pelusian Muslim prince from West Africa who was kidnapped and trafficked to the Americas during the Atlantic slave trade, having previously owned and sold slaves himself. So he was a slaveholder who had been kidnapped and brought over here. He was a prince. He's a Moor. They didn't care. 1730, intended to purchase supplies such as paper and sell to slaves owned by his father to a factory worker in a Royal African colony. While on the trip, Dilio, I'm going to say Dilalo, whoever it is, a translator, were captured and sold into slavery. He was captured, kidnapped, sold into slavery, into the Americas. They kidnapping Moors from over there and bringing them over here. This is an African prince. Oh, we got to go back because I want to read more about him. That summer, a letter written by him, an enslaved African trader, reached Oglethorpe, Oglethorpe purchased and freed him. That's called meritorious manumission. James Oglethorpe freed the prince, the Moorish prince. James Oglethorpe let him free. He wrote a letter to James Oglethorpe. Who knew that? Fulani, Yoruba, Ifa. I'm just showing y'all. Nobody told me this information. I know anything about this. I'm helping y'all to identify who came over here. Oglethorpe, who had been made a director or assistant of the Royal African Company. Wait a minute. The Royal African Company. I just showed y'all the Virginia Company. Let's learn about the Royal African Company, who also had a part into this. Ooh, look at that. Look at that seal. Who of them people is? What empire is this? The coat of arms. Private company. Y'all didn't think they was in on it? The founders was the House of Stuart. Remember the House of Stuart, the House of Tudor, House of Aragon, House of Castile. The Royal African Company was an English trading company established in 1660 by the House of Stuart of London, a merchant trade along West African coast. It was overseen by the Duke of York. Overseen by him, the brother of Charles II. Charles II, he was given the land in 1663, South Carolina. Remember that? The Royal African Company founder was Charles II, ascended to the English throne in 1660, Stuart Restoration, and he was granted a monopoly on all English trade with Africa. He was granted a monopoly with all English trade with Africa. While the company's original purpose was to trade gold on the Gambian River, as Prince Rupert of Rhine had identified gold deposits in the region during the interim, the RAC quickly began trading in slaves, which became the largest commodity. Historians have estimated the RAC shipped more African slaves to the Americas during the Atlantic slave trade than any other company. The RAC also dealt with other commodities such as ivory and the preliminary source of the Gold Coast region. After William III rescinded the company's monopoly in 1697 under pressure of Parliament of England, the RAC became insolvent in 1708. Though it survived in a state of much reduced activity to 1752, when its assets were transferred to the newly founded company, African Company of Merchants, was lasted to 1821. These are companies. These are companies. These are companies, man. The coastal tribes acted as intermediaries between them and slave hunters of the interior. There were little incentives for European men to explore upon the rivers, and few of them did also. The atmosphere might have been one quite routine for traders. For traders, had there not been acute rivals between the European powers, especially Dutch, who made native allies against their rivals before the Restoration. So these were some Africans involved in slave trading. I wonder what these Africans look like who were doing trading. I never heard of the Royal African Company. Crazy. Do y'all see who's involved with this stuff and what's happening? Oh, there was a lot of slave trade companies, but I'm showing you the people. I'm giving you names, giving you dates, I'm giving you locations. Anybody that's truly sincere about the diaspora of the slave trade, of the African slave trade, this is just cause to go do further research and to stop reciting what you're hearing. This is a cause to do deeper research. They're showing you Moors, Prince, who was captured, James Oglethorpe. Let's continue on. Whatever. Let's continue on. So James Oglethorpe did make contact with some Indians down in Savannah. Chief Tamachichi was his name. This is more from James Oglethorpe. Under his charter. This is my favorite picture right here. You see the little young Negro boy right here with the blue on. Yeah, make out that picture pretty good. Let me see if I can blow it up some more. My favorite picture to show right here. Oh, where'd it go? My favorite picture to show because I like to show the little boy in the middle who's pretty much the translator. I was over here. Chief Tamachichi made here it is right here. He made contact with James Oglethorpe. James Oglethorpe acting under charter. So you got James Oglethorpe acting under charter. You got the Carolina Providence acting under lower proprietorship. You have the upper colonies acting under what's called a lower proprietor as well, which are land grants and charters, which gave way to this right here. Head rights had multiple meetings, land grants, tribal trust fund, ostrich head rights. During the European colonization of America, the head rights, well, it's kind of small. I'm blowing it for y'all to read it together right here. During the European colonization of America, head rights was a legal grant of land to settlers. The system was in place from 1618 to 1700s and allowed landowners to purchase 50 acres of land for each immigrant they sponsored. So for each European you brought over here, you would get 50 acres of land. The system was intended to encourage people to settle the colonies and bring over laborers. However, it led to tensions with the indigenous tribes and in some cases, fraud. So nobody were coming out of Africa yet. They brought their people over here as immigrants, as the workers in the 1618 to 1700s. Then thereafter, we get into slave trade in the Americas, North America. Slave trade was already happening in South America, Central America, with Spain. I'm not talking about that part. I'm only talking about North America, where we live at. North America. Tribal trust fund. Head rights is the right to share funds and from tribal trust funds and members of American Indian tribe. The trust fund is often funded by money from minerals on tribal land today. Non-Oxen citizen corporation churches also own head rights. For the example, Oklahoma Historical Society, the University of Oklahoma, and Stanford University are among the non-Osage owners of head rights. Head rights. Write that word down. That's how Europeans also got control of land under something called head rights. This is for your purposes of your own research. Don't believe a word I say, people. These are just information I'm giving out. Please do your own research. One thing I didn't talk about, the Homestead Act, Head Rights, Homestead Act, Manifest Destiny, Indian Removal Act, Special Field Order number 15. All those things you need to know. These are all the things you need to know right here, or you should know about. At this point in your journey, these are all the things you should know about right here. Homestead Act. Let's look up Homestead Act. You saw head rights. It was during the colonial era. Let's look up Homestead real quick. Not the same as head rights, but similar. The Homestead Act of 1862 was a law that gave citizens, intended citizens, the right to claim 160 acres of public land in the United States. The act was signed in law by President Abraham Lincoln at the beginning of the Civil War. Gave citizens and intended citizens rights to claim 160 acres of land, of public land in the United States. The homestead was a revolutionary concept for distributing public land and had several effects. The act was intended to help and develop American West and stimulate the economic growth. Westward expansion. Hardship for Native Americans. The act forced many Native American tribes to move to reservations, which restricted their ability to hunt, fish, and gather food. 1937, the Homestead National Monument was established by Daniel Freedman, Homestead near Bastrop, Nebraska. The monumental commemoration, the change in act brought the land and the nation. The Homestead Act was effective to 1976. Federal Land Law Policy and Management Act repeal at 48 continental states. However, Alaska granted a 10-year extension on its claim. Dealing with property. Homestead Act. Manifest Destiny. Manifest Destiny was almost the same as the earlier Doctrine of Discovery. Similar, but right in America. Doctrine of Discovery was the international manifesto of Manifest Destiny. The Indian Removal Act. That's the Trail of Tears. Special Field Order number 15 was the invitation for those Indians to come back on the land. When I say Indians, I'm talking about the so-called Negroes. I'm not talking about TP Indians. I'm talking about the southeast region of America. I'm not talking about the Wild Wild West, the Midwest, Oklahoma, Nevada, Arizona. I'm only talking about the southeastern district of North America. Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana, Florida, Georgia, Carolina, and Virginia. That's the only territory I'm talking about. In my whole presentation today, I'm only dealing with the southeast region of America. Don't get it twisted. I'm not talking about the TP people out west. We haven't got that far yet. That's on part 2. I'm leaving the information on the screen for you to take quick notes. 1492, 1420, 1460. I'm sorry, 1520, 1560, 1598, 1619. That's in order. This is the order. I just highly advise that you guys study the time period in this order of the settlement of the Americas. It makes a lot of sense to you if you study this way. If you just say the Atlantic slave trade, you can be all over the place. You begin to put stuff into a timeline. Begin to put stuff in its proper matrix of when it happened, where it happened, I promise you it makes all the difference. I can't push it enough. I can't preach that too much. We get in these conversations with people. If you lock them into time and space, when it happened and where it happened, if they don't know about this coat of arms of John Hawkins, why is this important? Because this became the international badge that they wore. Like they wore this badge. John Hawkins and the boys. The Virginia colony, the Carolina colony, the Georgia colony. If you want this this little outline right here, shoot me a quick email, subject box, notes, just put the word notes in the subject matter. Shoot me an email and I'll email you this entire thing. The links are live links too, so you can check out the links. Do your own research. I appreciate y'all for rocking with me, man. Staying locked in, staying tuned in. A double header today, much more to come. Earlier today was definitely dope. And I appreciate y'all, man, for tapping in. Any questions that I didn't get to, please feel free to shoot me an email at the MOI podcast. I'll do my best to answer everybody's email. And also be sure, please check out the apparel, the pen and paper gang. Don't believe me, the hoodies, the shirts. Let me do this real quick. Just because I feel like doing this. Let me take you out to my website. You can tell I'm excited about it. Everybody else, that's pretty much it for tonight. Thank y'all for rocking with me. All y'all. Be sure to share this, man. Be sure to share this. Let me see if I can get my website up. Give me a second. If y'all don't mind. I mean, I'm not, asking everybody to stay on here. But I want you guys to take a look at my shit real quick. And tell me what you think. See if I can find the link real quick. I apologize about that. About to hold up. I'm telling y'all, check out my link. I can't even find the link. Let me find my link real quick. Lots of apparel. MOI clothing. That's what I'm calling it. MOI clothing. Let me see if I email my link to myself real quick. Outside of that, man, thank y'all for tapping in both times today. We had a dope ass show earlier. If you guys were able to catch the show earlier, if not, circle back on the link. I forget the sister name, but she gave some very dope points dealing with Kamala and, of course, Trump. All right, here we go. This is the site. Shoot me an email, man. Yeah. Please go back and check out the beginning of everything. We're going to do part 2 next Sunday. So again, when I come on here too much, it's going to be like straight classroom. Won't be too much entertainment. I apologize to those who came for entertainment. But here's my shit, man. So on the back of it, it says, if I can blow it up, you guys can see it. Sorry. Color coded, wanted since 1776. Got the barcode on there. This is the front side of the hoodie right here. Stolen birthright. I thought it was pretty cool. Of course, the pen and paper gang hoodie. And I created all these. This piece right here, I'm very proud of this piece. I can't tell you why. I think it's just dope. God vibes, Matthew 24:4, limited edition. And I'm gonna do a whole line like this. So these come in every color too. These come in every color. I got the MOI notebook. This is the notebook to take notes in. And a lot of y'all got your own notebook, but why not have an MOI notebook, right? It's dope. Urban Legacy, something else I'm pushing. Urban Legacy, another joint I'm pushing. The Creator brand, Minister Information, trucker hat, the phone case, think these are just stickers. You want the sticker? The stickers are available. Coffee mug, keychain. I mean, the dog tags are available. This is something I came up with. My daughters inspired me to produce this piece right here. Impossible. Nothing's impossible. Just think clearly. That's the whole message of this sweater. It's a hoodie. They had to go with the hoodie. Urban Legacy joint. The phone case. Urban Legacy. So yeah, man. It's the site, man. Shoot me an email. Get at me. That's the MOI hoodie. I just ordered one of these. This is embroidered, by the way. This ain't no iron-on bullcrap. This is the stitch joint. The Minister of Info. This just says creator, woke. Wintertime coming up, man. Support. Grab y'all the hoodie off here, man. Grab y'all the hoodie off here, man. Appreciate y'all, fam. Show love. Share. Thanks for tapping in. Only on Crumb TV. You'll find the immense information. Shout out to Crumb. Crumb came through early. He's over on Killer Priest channel right now. Peace, love, and hair grease.
Who taught you to hate the texture of your hair? Who taught you to hate the color of your skin to such extent that you bleach